Okay, so all right, we're recording now. I wanted to start off today's meeting, um, just talking about the service controller issue, and then what happened there, why we reverted it, and if there were any learnings from that exercise that we can improve on.
Okay. So yeah, we reverted it because there's some notes in the code that say how the cache state should be and should be treated. For example, if state's nil, that means it hasn't been processed successfully. But the controller actually depends on that differently. It assumes that state's always going to be set. So because of that, it caused because we were setting state before we successfully updated the load balancer. It caused a no-op, basically retry on error, which would cause intermittent failures in the E2E tests. So while we were looking into that, we also noticed inconsistencies with GCE is the only one that I've noticed that does it is they don't do a full update on ensure load balancer calls. They won't update the backend hosts. So because of that and the cache issue, we decided it would be best to just revert the change and tackle it in 1.10 after I finish the finalizer PR, which will remove a lot of that caching state dependency and clean up the overall logic. So one thing I did, and I've asked a couple of people, but I haven't gotten an answer. I was wondering if we could turn on the E2E tests when the service controller has a change, so we could catch these before they're landed, hopefully. Because we have no load balancer tests being running right now in any of our service controller PRs.
Got it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, this is the core of load balancers, really.
Yeah.
So yes, we should definitely push for that. Well, thank you for sharing that. Other than that, we have a new participant here today. Is there any questions you had, Daniel?
No, not really. I just wanted to listen what's going on. Maybe find a starting point where I can get into your work, etc.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So right now, one of our biggest priorities is getting this feature to beta, and what we need for that is end-to-end tests.
Okay.
What Joshua was talking about earlier, involves a little bit of that. End-to-end tests are tests where Kubernetes is tested along with
Yeah, I know the end-to-end tests.
right
Yeah.
when well so yeah so we added support for CCM and COPS, and we've also Lucas, the person who wrote kubeadm, I believe has added support for the Cloud Controller Manager and kubeadm as well. We need to actually create a dashboard of so what we need to create is a dashboard that shows up on how do I put this clearly? So on each release, one second, I need to really think this through. That we have docs on how we want to do this. Let me pull those up. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to run E2E tests on any cloud provider that. Okay, so okay, so the docs say run E2E conformance tests on cloud provider, and then post JSON docs to GCS API, and create dashboard with test results from all participating cloud providers, and configure alerts and notification failure. Oh, okay. So every time you make a pull request today, we run some end-to-end tests. If someone says okay to test, along with those tests, we need to add tests for CCM with external cloud providers. What happens today is all of the code is residing in Kubernetes core itself, but going forward, the cloud provider specific code will remain in external repositories. So we need to help all the different cloud providers to start running E2E tests on pull requests, and we need infrastructure for that. That needs to be built. So that's the first task, and we're looking for people to work on this along with us. And if you're interested, you could start off there, and I can show you how to get started and where to get started and what needs to be done offline.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Has anyone checked to see if the E2E tests will support anything not GCE or GKE? Like I dug into them because I'm running one right now actually on GCE, so I can just validate a pull request. But it didn't seem very open to other cloud providers in the current state. There's a lot of like, if this is GCE, then run these tests. Otherwise, ignore like the load balancer stuff.
Wait, are you looking at the E2E tests in the Kubernetes core repository?
Yes.
So there's another E2E tests repository, which has the other cloud cops and the rest of them. So I think it's called test infra, or there's a whole bunch of them actually. Let me pull those up. So yeah, there's something called test infra, which uses cops to run E2E tests. I'm just going to paste it here.
But it's running the same E2E tests in Kubernetes core, right?
It gets called in Kubernetes core, so that's how I followed it along. There's code in Kubernetes core which calls code and test infra, which calls cops to run the CCM or to run a cluster in AWS.
So I think currently it will run the CCM, but it won't actually run the E2E test related to the load balancer. Because I'm assuming it's going to run the same E2E tests in core. It's just deploying with cops. But from there, if the provider set on the E2E run isn't GCE or GKE, I think, it won't run a lot of tests because it doesn't have like the cleanup logic and stuff.
Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, things are cloud provider dependent, if like volumes and the route control only works on GCE, for example. That makes sense. So yes, Joshua, if you can make a pull request for the service controller, that would be awesome. I'll look at it. And then we'll extend that work into the rest of the E2E tests.
Okay. Yeah, I'll create a ticket so we can track it, and then I'll look through the E2E tests some more to see what all needs to be done. Yeah, I'm fairly new to that part of the code base.
Me too. But yeah, I'm sure we can figure it out in no time. So I noticed Walter joined. Walter, we still haven't merged that pull request for external. Sorry?
Yep. No, I'm waiting for an LGTM. I was hoping to get one before 1.9, but it didn't happen. And I have several queued up behind it.
Right. So I mean, I'm going back to that pull request, and can you remind me of the number again?
I can try. Give me a second. I'm gonna have to look it up.
52371. I remember saying this looks good. Like I
mean, right now it's just waiting for someone to do an approval. I've pinged a few of the related SIGs, like SIG apps, Lifecycle, and I've even pinged Tim Hawken on it, and I'm just sort of waiting for someone to give me approval.
Got it. Okay, I'll go through it one more time, and I can throw in an LGTM, but I think you'll still need either Tim Hawken or Mike Denny's, it looks like.
Okay, I'll bug both of them today. So the other thing, I didn't get a chance to put it on the agenda, but are you familiar with the new KEP process?
Diego mentioned it last meeting.
All right. So I've been there've been two people from CAP who've reached out and said, "Hey, we'd really like to see the cloud provider go through CAP."
Mm-hmm.
So I had a meeting yesterday with Caleb trying to work out what it is they would like, and I've got a fair idea. So I'll probably reach out with a PR in the next day or so. Honestly, it's mostly just a rewrite of our existing design proposal.
Okay.
So, but I will send that out to the working group once I've sort of refactored what we already had according to the new CAP template.
Awesome. Yes, that would be really great. Yeah, we were talking about it last week, and yeah, we all agreed that it's an important process to follow. So yes, thank you.
Yep, no worries. Also, I started a little late, and I'm butting in a little bit, but I heard we were discussing some of the the E2E test stuff and the fact that a lot of our tests only run on GCE.
Right.
So it's a couple of quick observations. I actually think it's a really big deal, and I'm glad someone's looking at it. A huge number of the tests that get written actually have explicit, skip if not GCE flags. And I think that's something
what Josh mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a problem for us. It's also going to be a problem for people like the conformance team. So, and then lastly, I will point out, I don't know if anyone else has observed, but when you're trying to run some of the CCM tests, even on GCE, when you do things like the scalability tests, it tends to push us over the N1 standard 1 limiter, which is baked into the test infra repo.
Got it.
So I know I have certainly banged my head against that on a few occasions, and I'll just warn people that for a lot of the scalability and related tests, there's no way of having both, a fix in Kubernetes main and in test infra in the same pull.
So if it does go over that limit, does that mean? So what's the consequence of it?
Well, so if we push into an N1 standard, if we basically if the master doesn't fit in an N1 standard 1, a random piece of the master will fail. Sometimes it's the scheduler. Sometimes since there's no there's no specific order of startup, it's whichever piece of the master starts last just fails, and so the system doesn't actually successfully start.
And would it be okay to increase the capacity in the test infra repo, or does that require some kind of approval because it's going to increase costs?
Yeah, it requires an approval. So I took it to the test infra team, and they were somewhat resistant. I've brought it up with Jago at least once, and so I'm hoping he will eventually convince folks that we need that to happen.
Mm-hmm. I think that sounds like something we definitely need, because otherwise, if we can't add CCM tests, we can't move forward.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, so we should definitely follow up on that. Thanks for bringing that up. So I'm just going to write down quickly all the things we talked about. So and then capacity increase for E2E tests.
Yeah, specifically, I think the big one's going to be the scalability. Yeah, EDE and scalability.
Got it. This is great. So is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not right now. I just want to get some forward progress. I'm hoping, is everyone going to be at KubeCon next week?
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Awesome. So I didn't know if we wanted to try and get together at some point during KubeCon.
So I'm only there on the 7th, just one day.
Is that Tuesday?
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
Would it work for the rest of you people? Like if you met on 7th?
That's a Thursday, but yeah, it'd work for me.
Thursday, okay. Yes, okay, let's do it. Let's all. Yeah, maybe what I'll do is I have almost all of your email IDs except Daniel's.
I can put it in a doc if you want.
Sorry?
Email. I can put the email in the doc if you want.
Sure, yes, please do. And I'll send an invite. I'll actually just leave I'll also add an open invite and send it out to the working group, Google group, like the mailing list.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's also a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So that way everyone's aware of our informal meeting. Okay, sounds good. And next week, we won't have this meeting because we'll all be at KubeCon. I hope, yeah, maybe I should send out a Google group info memo about that too. But yeah, next week we won't have a meeting, but we'll all meet each other at KubeCon. So looking forward to that.
Sounds good.
Yep. Is there anything else that anyone wants to talk about? I guess that's it. All right.